Can you say and spell your first name and tell me your title?
Yes, first name Andrea, last name Salinas, Andrea, last name Salinas. Title Congresswoman from the 6th Congressional District of Oregon.
Alrighty, so my first question for you is just going to be, can you speak to the work that ODHS did over the past 24 hours to get SNAP benefits online for the over 750,000 Oregonians that rely on it?
Yeah, it's been impressive, I should say. The fact that this judge essentially has forced the administration to pay benefits to Oregonians, like as you mentioned, the 750,000 Oregonians who need to put food on the table, has been impressive to work with the federal vendor to make sure that this happens. And ODHS is the agency that needs to make sure this happens. And this morning we wake up and people should be able to access their EBT cards and should be able to go to their local grocer and access their food card. So it's been impressive to say the least.
And what were the impacts you heard from your constituents while SNAP benefits were on hold?
Oh my goodness. So I don't know if you came to the roundtable that we had last week or were present. Senator Wyden and I went down to Marion Polk Food Share, but people were scared and worried and anxious, and mostly it was parents that we heard from, a lot of folks, but who had children in the home, caregivers who had folks who were disabled, veterans who relied on this. They were nervous about not being able to eat, and many of them had already gone several days because the EBT cards run out at different times during the month, and some of them run out before the end of the month. And some of them were waiting to get refilled. So yeah, they were worried that and they were already planning on how they were going to divvy up food for their children, what food they had left in the pantry and the fridge, right? So, okay, I know I'm not going to go without food, or maybe I'm only going to have 2 meals this week so that my children can have meals all through the week, or that, my elderly or disabled parent can eat more meals. So they were triaging, they were trying to figure out how those in most need could eat. That is not the world we should be living in when we are the most abundant nation on earth when it comes to food.
And how have you seen, you just spoke to it a little bit, but how did you see people in the community and groups in the community step up amid this crisis?
This, I think, was the part that warmed my heart the most. We saw the community step up so immediately. We heard about this one coffee shop in Portland that overnight just raised about $100,000. And then I just read this morning about a grocery store in my district in McMinnville, a grocery outlet owned by the McGinty family, who tried to offer a 10% discount to families on SNAP to help them manage the cost of groceries, knowing again that they were not going to be able to afford things. The Trump administration said they couldn't do that. They could not offer a 10% discount. It needed to be spread over everyone. So instead, the McGinty's created an honor system discount in which they said, okay, then everybody gets a 10% discount, and hopefully not everybody would take advantage of it. But so people across the community started stepping up. I've been reading again. I've been out in DC this week, and I'm ready to head back home today. But people have been flooding our food pantries with food donations as well. I know folks can definitely, our food banks and food pantries can also use cash and check donations. That has not stopped. So people are stepping up. They recognize the need, and Oregonians are sticking together on this one. So that part feels really good.
And also, what are your thoughts on how Governor Kotek and other Oregon leaders handled the uncertainty around SNAP benefits?
They sprung into action, plain and simple, right? Our attorney general made sure that he got onto the lawsuit to sue the Trump administration to release the contingency funds that are supposed to be used to pay the SNAP benefits in the event of a shutdown. And Governor Kotek also sprung into action. And I was delighted to see her make sure that she was going to put up the $5 million under the temporary assistance for needy families, to put that behind our food banks, knowing that folks were going to flock to the food banks. That was just a drop in the bucket, but she was also encouraging folks to step up and to help their neighbors as well, and that she was going to pressure the administration and Congress to do all that they could. So again, we were all, I think, rowing in the same direction, trying to make sure that we were there for our neighbors. And at this, at this time of the year, when kids are back to school, when things can be hard in the winter, right? Winters aren't easy in Oregon. Now's the time for all of us to do that. And so I was happy to be part of that effort.
And I understand that this is an evolving process. This is all happening this morning, but there have been reports that Oregon is one of only 8 states that have full benefits online. Do you know how ODHS was able to make this happen and how Oregon has full SNAP benefits compared to other states?
That is a good question. Probably one for the governor and ODHS.
Totally understand that. And I do want to ask too, I understand that the federal government can appeal this ruling from the Rhode Island judge. Do you have any idea what that would mean for November benefits? And what would be your reaction if the federal government appealed this ruling?
From what I understand, benefits will not change for folks on the ground who have their EBT cards loaded and ready to go for November and their benefits in place. Nothing will be clawed back, right? So their benefits will not be taken away. Um, if President Trump is successful in that appeal, it will be devastating. It will be devastating. It will be heartbreaking. And really, it's cruel and reprehensible, right? Who, again, at this time of the year, as we are approaching Thanksgiving, when we are all supposed to be generous with each other and thankful for the country that we have, and it's unthinkable that the leader of our nation would do something like this to 42 million people across the nation and about 1 million people in Oregon to do something like this. It would just be awful because then at that point we'd be heading into December, a colder month when people are celebrating holidays, trying to be with family. It would absolutely be devastating to these children, to the 80% of families who are working their tails off. That's the thing that I'm hearing from families is that 80% of them who are on, who use SNAP benefits have a family member who's working, which means they are trying, they are struggling. Something in the system is not going right for them, though, right? And it's not them. They've done nothing wrong. They're working within a system that isn't working for them, and they feel cheated somehow. Why isn't it working? They're doing everything right, but it's still not working. And so not to be able to put food on your table, much less to buy your child a gift at this time of year feels really wrong. So yeah, this would be just unthinkable.
Thank you for that. And then I do want to ask, this is all a result of this historic government shutdown. What is your reaction to Speaker Johnson keeping the House in recess?
This is another one. Like I said, I'm here this week. I'm getting ready to get on a plane to come back to Oregon. I'm ready. My caucus, the Democrats, we're ready to negotiate. Let's get something done. We don't need to open the federal government. Again, I want to be really clear in order to get SNAP benefits out to everybody. But let's make sure we lower the cost of healthcare. Let's make sure we make costs for families affordable. We can do this together, but we need to negotiate. We need to be back. The House needs to be open. We have stuff we need to get done for Americans, certainly for Oregonians. And again, I'm hearing it when I go back home. Housing is too expensive. Groceries, too expensive. Utility costs, too expensive. There's a lot on our agenda, and we have been out for well over a month. We're 6 weeks in here. That's not what I was elected to do. I'm elected to work for the hardworking Oregonians in my district. They're all working, right? And I'm back here working, trying to convince my colleagues to do the same thing. Come back, work with us. Let's get something done. I know their districts aren't any different than mine. So again, inexcusable. I would love for Speaker Johnson to open up the House, to put pressure on his Senate colleagues to get something done, and to work with Democrats to do the same.
And then my last question for you is just going to be on that Senator Thune and Senate Republicans are preparing a new package to reopen government operations. That package doesn't include an extension for expiring healthcare subsidies. What's your reaction to this new package? And if the Senate does pass it, would this be something you'd consider voting yes on?
Not if it doesn't lower the cost of healthcare. I think Americans have been loud and clear. I know I've been getting letters and phone calls and a lot from people who are close to retirement age, but who need those premium tax credits extended. I heard from somebody just this past week, her her tax credit, her premiums for her tax credits are going to jump by over $1,000. And she is not yet ready for retirement, so she will not be eligible for Medicare. She can't afford it. And she said in her note to me, I don't even know what to do. And I said back to her in a little video, I don't know if it's made my social media feed yet or not, but I said back to her, I know what to do. We have a policy solution for this. And and we actually had one before HR1, the big ugly bill, which was to extend those tax credits. It's not perfect. Our healthcare system, we have a lot of work to do around this, right? But for right now, we can extend those tax credits. And again, I'm willing to negotiate, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be everything Democrats want. It can't be everything Republicans want. They don't want anything. But we have to move the dial for these working families who can't afford healthcare right now. We have to put something out there. And these families have been saying we need something, right? And I think we saw from Tuesday's election, families want something. They need for us to lower costs, and healthcare is number one.
Thank you for that. And then, is there anything else that you'd just like to add on the status of SNAP right now and the impacts that releasing these full funds are going to have on Oregonians and Americans overall?
I think it just goes hand in hand, right? You are not going to be a thriving, full-fledged, like I said, 80% of families who have an adult in the household who are SNAP eligible are working. You are not going to be able to get yourself to work, get your kids to school if you don't have a meal that day, if you don't have access to health care, if you can't make sure that you have access to that doctor, if something is really bothering you in terms of your health, if you're diabetic and you can't get your insulin, you are not going to be a productive member of society. And Oregonians, we do so much, right? In my district, we're out in the fields, we're in the manufacturing plants, we're innovative. We are the home of chips and bioscience, and we're a thriving community. But when you aren't given the tools, and that's all families want, are the tools to thrive, and you start taking them away and knocking people down, they're going to be upset, and they should be upset right now. And government just has to get out of the way, give people the tools so they can go make a better life for themselves. And right now, we're not doing that. We're taking those tools away. So I want to give them back. I want Republicans to return. We can do this.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, Congresswoman, and hope to speak with you soon.